Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone. We gotta kickstart this presentation, this session, with the topic on the net neutrality. We have two parts for this presentation.
Les politiques publiques.
A vision on public policy for Africa and a vision from Mrs. Aidenjai, who is going to make a presentation, and she will take you through Facebook and other social networks. We plan to have a panel, but we have a change in the planning and we have sometimes concerns, so it's gonna be very quick. I do hope that we'll be able to understand the issues at stake with regard to net neutrality. Net neutrality is a relatively critical issue as it raises a lot of debate across the world. Its principle is based on the fact that all the internet traffic should be processed in an equal manner without any discrimination and regardless of the type of content of the service or the application. Therefore, it aims to guarantee an identical treatment to all providers, regardless of the size. This principle was in various laws, and it's reaffirmed by the Federal Communication of the U.S. government in a notice issued in March 2015 in many countries like Brazil. This net neutrality principles is even integrated in laws. Users should be able to access information and access of their choice without any discrimination. In compliance with these principles, access providers should not block or guarantee a preferential treatment to one actor at the expense of the other. We have a lot of principles that question the net neutrality depending on the access provider. We have a lot of issues related to the net neutrality. We also see a lot of commercial offers from operators which privilege some applications with regard to others, and all this is in line with the questioning of the net neutrality principle. But we'll see that this is due to various factors. It's not just economic factors, but we have technical factors, in particular the issue of quality service and the issue of security as well. The objective of the net neutrality consists in developing a digital ecosystem rather large, which will be favorable to access to information for all. The other principle is to promote creation and come with innovation through contribution. It's about also preserving a digital space with innovation and freedom. With regard to public policies, the recommendations are to have the neutrality of network in laws, and I think in most African countries, we are updating institutional and legal frameworks, and it's critical to keep in mind the registration of the network neutrality principle in the various legislation. For end users, this is translated in the right to access information and access and to disseminate them, to execute and supply services and use the terminals of their choices regardless of the venue of the supplier and regardless of the whereabouts of the service, the information and the content via the internet access service. For the internet access providers, they should guarantee the principle of the freedom to propose specialized services to end users. Another topic related to this recommendation, it's about making sure that these services are only proposed when the capacity of the network is sufficient for providers, and if they do not undermine the quality of internet services. And this poses some ambiguity because on the one hand, when we look to guarantee neutrality, it should not also be free enough to put on the network applications and services which may in turn undermine the quality of service or the availability of other applications. So we need to be able to strike a right balance, and it's very difficult to reach this compromise. Providers should not also discriminate among equivalent applications. We have a lot of offers in Africa today which give an unlimited access to some services and applications, and likewise we limit access to other applications which are almost competing or identical, and this is a problem, I think, with regard to the net neutrality. Another recommendation on public policy in Africa is to limit specialized resort to specialized services. Operators should be able to propose specialized services, TV, telephony, telemedicine, so sharing of imaging. Usman Jai, this is your seat. You're gonna take the floor after. So this is justified by the development of innovative services which call for quality. Specialized services should not undermine the quality of public internet. Therefore, there is need to have a strict monitoring to prevent the emergence of high-speed internet. The definition of these services will allow operators to limit the internet by having services. Another important recommendation is to apply the principles to all the network. The debate on the net neutrality has evolved over time and over technological breakthrough. It's necessary to adopt a definition of the neutrality beyond the physical networks and to target mobile networks, in particular in the zero rating practice, which consists in proposing some services For example, on data mobile, we find these examples in commercial offers in Africa, for example, for YouTube and Facebook in unlimited on some package on 3G and 4G in particular. So the interoperability of standard norms. Other recommendations, we need to find ways and means to control the application of the net neutrality in public policy in Africa. So this is an important issue for African states. We have various practices which have nothing to do with the net neutrality on the mobile network and the fixed network transit agreement negotiated among operators and content providers. These agreements should not be a problem, should not undermine the neutrality of the network. Therefore, it's necessary to make sure that we have transparency and make sure that subscribers know about the technical performances of internet access. We need to find ways and means to control and observe the application of neutrality, and this requires imposing transparency obligation to operators. We have seen in the US, people wanted to question the issue of net neutrality by imposing a transparency obligation. So some independent organizations raised this issue. So we have to go through the same rules of control on mobile and fixed alike. Lastly, we need to find ways and means to, this implies conferring to regulatory authorities a say on agreements. These officials should make sure that agreements are not source of imbalance in the processing of content. You see, we need to make sure that we have service quality. So the civil society, developers and companies should actually get together. This is, in a nutshell, some ideas and recommendations I would like to share with you on this important topic of the net neutrality. So given time constraints, we prefer not to actually elaborate on the issue, but we may come back more extensively if you have any questions. Thank you for your attention. Merci.
Aida.
Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here. Just to supplement Dr. Diallo's presentation, I would like to come up with a perspective from the private sector with regard to the net neutrality. So let me share some key elements to start with. So this is a quotation that by Tim Wu on the article written by Tim Wu on the net neutrality and the regulation of internet networks. He was wondering why people should care about the net neutrality. What is the importance of having an open internet which is accessible to all? When we talk about net neutrality in Africa, I think this is a debate between internet access providers and what we call OTT, like applications online. For us, it's important to have a stance, because when we talk about net neutrality, I think this goes beyond the technical aspect of public policy. This is a human right issue. Access to internet. For Facebook, we are interested in that, because for us our platform is not just a platform whereby people communicate and send messages, but we have an interest with regard to connectivity and access to internet. Very quickly, our mission on Facebook is to connect each and everyone and create a community. But this is not all. Today, Facebook is very important worldwide. It's billions of messages, billions of people that are on the platform every month. So what I would like to touch on is on internet.org. This is our project. Our mission is to allow each and everyone to create a community and bring people together, but also connect the 60 people which are not online. We have conducted some study and we realize that many people are not online because they have some problems. And these are some figures which illustrate the importance and the value of connectivity. The fact that we may have millions of jobs created, the fact that when we have open internet, people can create business, children can have access to educational resources. When we talk about the value of connectivity, the issue of the net neutrality is critical. We need to make sure that people access all applications that are available on the internet in order to get the most out of it. In our study, the various impediments with regard to the net neutrality, there is an issue. It's about connectivity. There is an issue of problem of infrastructure, awareness raising, and the affordability of internet. When we talk about awareness raises, we mean many of our people do not understand what is the range of the internet. But we have this issue of awareness raising with regard to public authorities. What type of public policy should we put in place to promote access to internet which is open, which may promote the development of internet and the use of online platforms like Facebook and other platforms. These are some initiatives that we launched, like Facebook Zero. I think Dr. Diallo was sharing that. Our stance on zero rating product is that this does not promote the net neutrality. For us, the net neutrality is to make a choice, to make sure that people have as many options as possible, like online application, messaging platforms. When we offer such a product, which allow users to have Facebook free of charge, so we do not promote Facebook on. If you have Facebook Zero, it does not mean that you cannot access Twitter or you cannot access Instagram or other applications on the online platform. To add to that, on this, the net neutrality, I think studies have also shown that having applications offered free of charge is very important to promote access to internet, because it encourages people to use the internet. So overall, having a zero rating product does not violate the neutrality of the internet. It's an issue of choice, basically. To finish, we also conducted some research on the major principles, the good practices with regard to the net neutrality. We're not going to repeat what Dr. Diallo has just said. I think there should be no obstacle, no limitation to the access to internet. So people should be free to use the internet. And we realize that we have the private interests to some people want to block application like Viber because they think that it's a loss of profit. But our studies have shown that this is not the case. All operators, everybody is going through data. So this issue of loss of revenue is not actually shown. As I said earlier, when we talk about net neutrality, I think it's important to deal with the content equally, not to just actually give privilege to one product. The other principle that I'm going to underline is access to systems, regardless of the system you have. Actually, people should have access to the available content. And the principle 4, the internet should be open to everyone. You may use wireless or any other connection. Transparency. We realize that in some cases, as Jallo rightly pointed out, we have cases of reasonable management of the traffic, and this may be necessary for technical reasons. But when these mobile providers and internet access providers, I think we need to have transparency. We need to know what is the rationale for the regulation of this traffic, and this poses the 6th principle. If there is need for managing traffic, this should not be based on economic reasons or competitive reasons, but this should be based on technical reasons in order to ensure the operation of the network. So what is the future? This is the future version of Facebook. Internet applications and the virtual reality, the artificial intelligence is the future. In order to have an ecosystem that promotes this innovation and development, it's important to respect the principles like the net neutrality. That's all I wanted to say, and I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ida, and thanks for managing time. Let's take a few questions on both Dr. Jallo and Ida's presentation, then we'll move on to the next.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Oui, super. Bonjour à tous, Jean-Baptiste de Podium. J'ai une question pour vous, madame. Quand vous parlez de Facebook Zéro, Facebook Free of Charge, par quoi se concrétise le Facebook Zéro ici en Afrique?
Je veux juste m'assurer que...
Let me make sure that I do get your question. You're asking me in which countries we have put in place Facebook Zero, or do you mean the impact of Facebook Zero? In which country and which its infrastructure? Facebook Zero is put in place in partnership with mobile operators, and it's available in about 30 countries in Africa, including in Senegal with Tigo. So the idea is the operator is deciding. So the operator decides if he wants to offer it like a bundle. So, yes, it's very popular in many countries, and it's popular on mobile operators, because the feedback we receive more often than not is that with Facebook Zero, we see higher data consumption. So that's why we believe that even if sometimes it may be a discrimination, but it's a positive discrimination which does not prevent access to other applications. It does not violate net neutrality.
Okay, quickly, one question.
Yeah, just one quickly. Je pensais que les
I was thinking that infrastructure was related to Facebook, and it was not related to internet access services, because the broadband would go through Facebook directly. Thank you.
Can I answer that later? Before the next one, who's the last one in the line? Okay, please don't allow anybody behind you. We need to move. Okay, can you please make your questions very short and to the point?
Okay, thank you. My name is Yusuf Ahmed. I'm an academic fellow. This question goes to Ida. You talk about zero rating and neutrality. To my understanding, zero rating is whereby part of the internet is given to people for free. It's like a walled garden. You don't have access to the rest of the internet. You also said that Facebook, your intention to make internet free for all. So talking about net neutrality, which means internet should be free. There shouldn't be any restriction as far as connectivity is concerned. So how do you draw the line between the net neutrality and zero rating from your presentation? Thank you very much.
The next one, please. I'm going to take 3 questions before the answer.
Okay, thank you. I'm Evelyn Bisoda from Cameroon. I'm a fellow. I would like to go because I carried out the research in my country with women and girls, and most of them explain that they don't access Facebook or other software applications because of online and sexual harassment. What is the network neutrality principle? What are the strategies that are put in place to ensure that online harassment should be eradicated?
Thank you. Next one, please. Then we'll ask for the answer.
Good morning. My name is Ala Oslati. I'm from Tunisia. I'm also an African fellow. So my question is also about the internet neutrality. If we talk about connectivity to the internet, how can we move forward to the point of neutrality when only 2% of Chad, for example, is connected, or 1% of Eritrea is connected, or 4% of African Central Republic is connected to the internet? I think there has to be some steps to take and prioritization in this context. And I think we should maybe build the basics first before we introduce such topic to these communities. And then my second point is about the government. I mean, the government should treat all data the same to ensure neutrality on the internet, on all platforms. But especially in our African context, this is not the case. The government does not treat all data the same. So how do we ensure that the government is online with us and is collaborating to ensure this neutrality? Thank you.
I just answer those 3, then we'll take the last 3 and we'll move on. I see other people joining that question line, please. You can respond. Should we finish that?
So I'll try to be brief.
Donc je vais essayer d'être bref. Je vais répondre.
First question asked was in English. So if I understood the question correctly, the question was around net neutrality and access to internet, and how does Facebook reconcile the fact that we are offering zero-rated services, but also we want internet free for all. So just to clarify, so our business model in terms of connectivity is not internet free for all, it's to facilitate access to internet. So what we do is we generally do partnership with mobile operators, internet service providers that operate locally, and we try to offer services at a lower price. So that's the business model. So we're not necessarily offering free services. So in cases where it's free, like free basics, like I was explaining a bit earlier, is that our approach to it is that net neutrality is about having choices. So I'm making sure that people have as many choices as possible in terms of what they can have access to the internet. And when we offer Facebook for free, and it's a light version of Facebook, we expand people's choices, and we don't prevent them from accessing any other platform. So it's a bit our understanding of net neutrality there. And just to add as well around free basics is that it's a platform that is actually open. So like I was saying in the earlier question, so it's the operators who actually decide who can be on the platform or not. So in principle, and anyone who has their website coded in such a way that it can be on free basic, it can be on free basic. So that was one question around that. There was another question around online safety and online harassment. I think it's very important. I think the solution to abuse and to online safety and harassment is not necessarily to block the internet or to limit access to the internet, but it's around really putting in place policies that protect users. And at Facebook, we have community standards, and I'm sure Dr. Jallo can talk a bit more about what governments are doing. And the last point around connectivity, absolutely, it's necessary, but I think it shouldn't be discussions that shouldn't take place at the same time. That's why I was trying in my presentation to connect net neutrality and connectivity, because it's around having access to internet, and net neutrality is just another aspect of access, and saying access should be free and open for all.
Okay, thank you. One question, 30 seconds each, please. I'm running time. So
thank you very much. My name is Frida Lucas, and I'm from Namibia and Afrinic Fellow as well. So I was also just concerned on the protection online and also the connectivity, because as much as you want free bases, sometimes most of the areas, say like in my country, there's so many areas that are not yet connected when it comes to internet. So in that case, what can be done, or what are the recommendations that can be done in that case? Thank you.
Cameroon, I have an observation when talking about the net neutrality. So the panel should not represent all parties, but I think we should have more party than lucrative organization. When we talk about applications, I would like to note that we need to include applications that have universal and public value, that have nothing to do with money. Thank you. I'm gonna be brief also. My question is directed to Madam. When she talked about Facebook Zero, I thought that it was my understanding was that free of charge. When I hear Facebook Zero, I think we need to put in. I'm very proud with the Haitian community of Senegal, because they put in place local social media, and we need to encourage that instead of encouraging relationship with Facebook. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Jallo.
Merci.
I have a few questions. I would like to commend the person that has put this question with regard to how government should process data in an equitable manner and move forward. When we talk about net neutrality, you should not think that we have a discriminatory treatment based on the provider or the type of application. When we say processing data in an equitable manner for public policy, this is about saying that the same data, regardless of the whereabouts, is treated in the same manner. If this data is harmful to the public security, I think so states have the responsibility to try to preserve the integrity and sovereignty, and we have to ensure the security of respective states. And this means that the fact is that some data or applications are blocked to guarantee some public security, some peace in countries. This is not contradictory to the principle of the net neutrality, because this data which is filtered or blocked, whether it comes from Facebook, Google, or any other application, it would be blocked in order to guarantee peace and tranquility in the country. And this is an answer to all questions with regard to online protection and harassment. And there was one observation on to have universal and practical applications. I think the problem is not just to block or promote others. We are in an open space, and this is a ruthless fight. Those that are better in lobbying, marketing. So this will bring some disparity, but there is no will on the side of the government to block some people, you see. This is in a nutshell what I wanted to bring as answers to the questions raised. Thank you, Doctor.
Around for the rest.
Aida, je crois que